Hebrew boys who had to make a decision in Daniel when they had to make a
Yes.
decision
Do I follow
what
the way
way
of
of
the world
world
and bow to this thing?
or
Or do
do
I stand by my principles
right
and trust God that I believe in?
yeah. So let there be light. He came to restore us to the light. And this morning, if you are walking in the light of God, which is what Jesus has done, He's restored us back to the position of being through the light being. Where there is light, it dispels the darkness. The darkness goes, it disappears. And so, and let there
The
be
light
light.
brings order,
Yeah,
visibility,
right.
illumination, clarity,
And
health,
there's
growth,
right.
life. We
There
could go on.
we could, and there seems to be a lot of darkness in terms of what we see being manifested in the world today and being manifested also in what we see happening if we just think in terms of national events. And we just have to continue to declare, let there be light. There is light. And when the entrance of God's word, what does it do to you? It brings
It brings
light.
life.
It brings light. So this morning we are declaring, today is Thursday, even as you go into your weekend, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And if you are in relationship, in connection with the light of the world where you are, there cannot be any darkness at all. You must reflect the light that you are. And this light is a light that causes us to love when there is fear,
Perfect love passes
without
all
all
fear.
fear. Yeah, so
I'm fully absorbing the light conversation. It's not a light
it's
conversation.
not a light,
It's
it's
about
not just
light.
light, it's about light. But, and even,
I'm loving it, and just remembering too that when Jesus declared that He's the light of the world, He also said, "For those who believe in Me, I am eternal life." So this idea that in life you find the continuity, the longevity, the eternity that you're seeking, for those who are pursuing life with such hunger that they will do just about anything to extend life.
remember that conversation?
Yes.
There's a
Eternal
quest for,
life comes through a relationship with Christ.
for those who are seeking for life beyond, they just have to understand. Hook up to the light, and the light continues it with you. So Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And because I'm the light of the world, this light becomes the light of all men. But the thing with it, you have to accept this light.
Absolutely.
So if you don't accept it, you cannot be enlightened. Remember, there was the age of enlightenment after the
Oh, yes,
darkness,
yes,
and what happened
yeah.
with that.
You see, man is always trying to declare a new life.
But
We're always seeking to not just emulate, because if we were just emulating it, that would be good. We'd be honoring the source and recognizing that there's a source. But our vanity leads us to replace. We want to replace. And I mean, just when you look at some of the scientific experiments that are now being conducted under what we regard as more refined and reliable structures of control, they are all seeking to decode what exists, reduce it to a formula that we can replicate. And we're back to putting wings on our body so we can fly to the sun. We know how that ended. That is a principle.
you remember that?
The wax melted and Icarus fell to the ground.
Yes.
So you don't even have to guess what's going to happen with that particular adventure. Icarus, the equivalent of the Tower of Babel, all those attempts by man, the eating of the fruit so we could be like God, all of those attempts, however they may be wrapped up in myth and fiction and mystery, they all end the same way. The attempt to be like God or to be God or to replace the God factor in our existence, they
Correct.
end badly for man.
I,
Whatever we might want to say, there is enough record of how badly it ends for man.
Yeah. So you see this thing of let there be light in terms of the fact that when you have accepted the light, the revelation and the inspiration comes for you personally in terms of who you are and what it is that God has said about you. Because when I'm in situations and you hear all of this jabbering, these things that would come against your very entity, it you have to go back to source in terms of the revelation, right? And the inspiration that came from hooking up back to the source and what it says. And that dispels all of the darkness that has come in terms of words that come to seek to defeat you, in terms of actions that are taken to stymie you, actions that are taken to derail you, to declare to you that you are not a person of great value, but you're a person of interest or a woman of business. And all of the things that
Shut you
be
down.
down, yes, and you declare and you stand in the revelation
I
of
think
what
at,
God has said.
I think at some point, others are going to realize that the words that demean others uplift a certain category of person. The more you beat me down, the higher I rise. And if your objective is to elevate me, then keep going. But if you truly want to diminish me, then it's best you ignore me.
Yeah.
It would be best. If you ignore me, I will ignore you. And you might not push my ambition quite so vigorously. But there
Yeah.
are a class of persons who respond differently to a certain kind of stimuli. Thank God for that class of persons because they're the ones who change the world. They're the ones who don't accept the status quo and who push to bring about a certain kind of change, which tends to work for the betterment of the regular folk.
Yeah,
But we have digressed a little. I want to draw you into a conversation. I know you are a man of science as well as a man of
go ahead.
mysticism. The heart gives off, the human heart radiates within a certain field of energy. And there is a frequency. Sometimes I jokingly speak about it because I sometimes want to remind persons that I can make a sound that causes your head to explode.
But we've seen that.
Well, just a little of. Do you remember when American diplomats in various countries were being terrorized by some high frequency noise that was wrecking their health?
And they didn't know what they're
And they
doing.
didn't know what
Up
it
to
was.
now, they
Up to
can't. No, they
now,
don't know
they
because
have
they,
accused different nations. I think when they were in Cuba and they have accused
they do that.
Cubans, they've accused the Chinese. They saw it as an attack. And it must have been an attack because they were not seeking to do it themselves. I shouldn't say that. Attack is an intentional, deliberate, hostile activity. It could have been an accidental consequence of something else.
That they would have done and they never know.
Which they may have been doing, but they didn't trace the source or they didn't disclose the source. The point of it is that everything in nature resonates to certain frequencies. That's why our being light beings is an important scientific revelation for those who are so mired in the physical nature of this existence that they can't see beyond what they feel and touch. I'm going to say the Thomases of this world. Those who will not believe by faith or believe based on the narrative of a credible source. I'm going to go back to that because that's a part of what I wanted to talk about this morning. But recognizing that the heart emanates a certain vibration of energy.
The
And
body.
it extends beyond your physical body.
The body as a whole
Yes.
vibrates at a
Yeah,
certain
so-
frequency. That's why Jesus was able to
So
walk through the wall.
you're radiating energy to a distance of about 8 feet. You and I are 12 inches apart at this moment. So your energy is well mixed up with mine.
They call it the energy field that you have.
Yeah. And the scientific experiments are showing now that when the fields of energy interact, it produces
Good or bad.
discernible impact on the physical world. Just like how when you talk to your plants, they respond to you, and those who love to
The words that you
investigate
speak.
the
Remember
cannabis
the
wisdom know that the cannabis plant relates to a menstruating woman.
it does?
Yes, her energy killed it.
Or the,
So young women who are in their time of month can't deal with the plant. I always wonder who discovered that.
or they can't tend to the
They
plant.
can't tend to the plant during that time because it
Interesting.
neuters the plant.
Interesting.
So if you have your young daughters running through your cannabis field,
Them just kill off the thing,
you
man.
end up with what is the other? What's the plant that is that
Hemp?
doesn't have it becomes hemp? Yes,
Okay.
yeah, it becomes hemp. So recognizing that we have discernible impact on the physical world by doing nothing more than just standing in the present and breathing. Because your heart has to be beating, it must have a pulse. If
But
you
you
have a
know,
pulse, you have impact.
but do you know? So now let's tie that in.
Yeah.
Do not forsake the assembling of yourself
When the saints come together in one place.
in one accord. That it says they were gathered together in one accord. We just come out of Pentecost in Acts
Yes.
2.
Well, we're not out of Pentecost. I
No.
know you've said it, meaning the day has
Has
passed.
passed, but
But
we
the
are- but we are-
Pentecostal fire is
It
alive.
still continues, but when it says to come together, do not forsake the assemblings
Of the
of yourselves.
saints.
It's very important.
Yes.
Because you talk about each one of us having
That field of energy.
right, and now go back to light.
Yes.
You know are connected back to the light, and all of the light people come
Together.
What do you think
What
happened?
an incandescent room.
Yeah, but beyond that, the power that is released.
Yeah.
I have seen, even in terms of miracles, a flow.
More potent.
It is no, and that's why we said there's something that happens corporately
Yeah.
when we come together versus when you're there by yourself. That's why it says don't forsake it. Don't forsake the assembly of yourself.
saints.
And that's
It has
why I
power.
said you guys go together and wait, and then you receive power. Because
And sending persons out in twos.
Twos,
Two
yeah,
persons of
two by
like
two.
mind
Yes, man.
will have a more powerful
there-
impact.
there's a power
than-
of unity.
Of unity.
We did. Remember the
I know I
blessing?
was starting to ask you. I was bringing you into but this is a tangent from the conversation. It's part and parcel of it. I want us to discuss and to guide persons into acknowledging the power of the many when they are of one accord and their energies interact positively to have impact. And it's why people say, let's get together and protest. Let's do and let's be together. It's why there's always that need for for more to come. Because the more you are, and when they say unity is strength, it's not physical brute strength. It's strength of a different order.
Of mind.
Of mind. Understand this. When the body is performing at optimal, meaning
Everything
all
working
of the
together.
healing energies and the positive beneficial energies are working well, there is healing, there is restoration, there's multiplication. Out of it comes abundance.
There's a synergy that comes together. When listen to it now. When I do weddings, I say 1 + 1 become 1. It's biblical math, but 1 + 1 becomes 3. Because you coming together and people say, wait, I said there's a synergy. No, not about no fertility. I'm talking about the energy that you have together when a couple is in one accord and moving against one vision. I see it happen all the time. What you could not have done by yourself. When you come together, curses are broken. Generational curses are broken in that covenant.
But I want to look at a little of the science behind it for those who can dissect or separate the spirituality from the science. There is tremendous science behind it. You and me together here, focusing our energy on the same objective, to edify, to uplift, to build. Any weaker or less noble energy that enters the picture
It's a spell.
is dispelled. In fact, what will happen? It begins to conform or to mimic what you and I are doing.
Correct.
So the experiment that the people ran, the scientists ran, showing that the photons by themselves exist in chaos and disorder.
Correct.
When the human DNA entered the picture, it began to imitate and to mimic human DNA, telling us that we have dominance
And they created
over chaos and disorder.
created
When we
order.
enter, whatever we do will set the tone.
Amen.
The further experiment which showed that the positive emotions of love and support and beauty and appreciating the things of God, when the Apostle Paul said, whatever is noble,
Good.
whatever is good,
Philippians
think
4:8.
on these things.
Philippians 4:8.
Because when you are thinking on these things, you become the high point by which other things are judged, and everything else that is of a lesser resonance is drawn towards what you are putting out and begins to imitate it, to mimic it. And this is why there are persons who can enter a room and by the sheer power of their personal authority and will, they exercise dominance in that room. They change the atmosphere of that room. I pray that every one of you listening to me will be of such. You enter a conversation, and once you speak, you set the tone to which others gravitate. This morning, we're looking at something together, Lowell and myself, and I said, I really have to raise it because I want persons to know you can build yourself to be such.
This one to focus
The
on.
building, of course, is we start with it. Jesus said, I am the light of the world, and I am the way. I am the door to the eternal, divine
I'm the truth
power
and
of
the
the
life.
Father. I am the truth and the life. So, if you follow the Apostle Paul and begin to think on those things, you begin to
Whatever is good.
multiply in your resonance and your impact, so that your standard becomes the one to which people gravitate. So when you think of it based on a community level, family,
Family
so start
first.
with family first.
Family first.
Your family, as you are seeing, your family will adopt, imitate, absorb what you
Values.
pour into them.
Values, yeah. Over time.
Absolutely. And I want to tell you that, speaking as a child now, and having got it from my parents, when I see my parents scratching their head and looking worried because this or that child is don't seem to be manifesting what was poured into them, as a child, and knowing how I handle things, I said to them, don't worry about it. You plant it,
See that go grow. See that go
it,
grow.
it has no,
Train up a child.
it will grow.
Train up a child.
You may not see it during your lifetime,
Train
but
up
I
a
see and hear many persons in their mature years,
Going-
parents dead and gone,
going back to them
going
back to the valley.
to what was planted. Some of it is my grandmother. I hear them
The granny.
drawing on it in their old age. No one to see that they are honoring it, but it does happen. If you have sown good seed, it may take a time depending on how well the child is nourishing it and what the environment is doing to it, but it will produce its harvest.
And it does. And you know, as you
starting
talk
in the
about
home, you do that.
community.
Community, that's why the word community includes communion. You got to get together so that the strength of your common bonds can become the
Force for change.
force for change. All right, now we are taking our 7 o'clock break, but I'm really excited about this because I see in it something worth pursuing. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back. So, Pastor Percival is going to give me some information in this segment that I think will be helpful to you. So, the question I posed to him in the break, having gone through the discussion about the resonance and the rhythm that can occur between two human beings being close together as their fields of energy merge and interact, allows for certain changes to take place. And it can be a very positive change, meaning it works to the benefit of all, the betterment of all, or it can be a negative change in that it might reduce or subjugate one person to the harmful intent of another. Like when a gunman put a weapon to your head
Here.
and say, whatever it is they say. Some people knock the weapon out of position and dominate. Some submit.
Some run away.
Well, there is a reason why one person will react one way and the other will react another way, and either the attack succeeds or the attack is
Right.
successfully repulsed.
Right, nullified.
It's nullified. There's a reason. We are understanding and just opening your awareness to the fact that there is an invisible influence that is exerted when two persons are together, or four persons, or 100. Something happens which is discernible, measurable in the physical world. So I asked Percival in the break, what is the vibration of the Jamaican people as a nation? What's our vibration? What are we giving off that causes various things to happen?
Negative. Negative.
And you had an answer.
It's negative. As I was saying, and I was just sharing the stories with you. We have a default position to go negative instead of staying positive. And in order to really shift and move forward,
As a nation.
we have to shift the frequency in our nation. There's a joke. You meet a Jamaicans and you say, ask them, what's happening? And them say, boy, it's rough, and you hear it, rough, 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 like you said, we become like, and so somebody was saying, we need to change it in terms of the decorations of our mouth. And you spoke about it when you refer to Philippians 4:8, things that are good. Focus on those things. Don't focus on the negative. So there needs to be a shift in terms of the overall energy in our nation.
We're losing our audience.
In terms of the negative nature of how we are to be more positive. We can do this. I can.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this then. Because Jamaica on the global platform has a very positive vibe. The world sees us in a particular way. So we're giving off an energy as a nation that is well received, admired in certain aspects. I mean, persons still come here, the tourism minister is just bursting with pride over the great accomplishment in the tourism sector, because regardless of how horribly we are treating each other, the world is still
wanting to come.
And I don't think it's like in the days of the Roman Empire when you gather at the Colosseum to see the Christians being eaten by lions or people being tortured. They are coming for the food, the music, the cuisine, because we're creating something that is of beauty and of value. What is happening inside of the nation?
The soul?
Because, I asked you, when we are side by side, there's a certain impact. We have science to relate it. But if you were to speak to me on the phone, I am in Africa, and we speak.
You hear my voice saying, love, hey, Percy, how you doing?
There is an imprint of Percy in my spirit.
That's how we have interacted.
No matter where I go, that imprint is what guides my reaction to you, unless something of greater influence
That's
nullifies that imprint.
happened to change that.
And it is so. You love somebody today, you love them without any restraint. You meet somebody better tomorrow, and that love, that imprint is taken out. Or you love someone, they die, you're disappointed by the death, but no other force comes to even remove.
Or
You
erase
get
that.
stuck in your place of grief and disappointment. No greater influence comes to remove that from your spirit. I'm saying all of this because I feel when we begin to get a better understanding of the physics, the natural laws, the science behind who we are, how we were created, and the kind of power which we can exert over our own circumstances as well as over one another.
But you
We
know,
will achieve a better result by directing it forcefully.
but I would hasten to say, and this is so very important, that you related the instance in regards to relating to someone that dies, a person dies, or you're in love with somebody and then you start loving somebody different. And I think it goes back to a decision you take, which is related to faith. You relate
You
it.
want us to talk about Thomas and what the conversation you and I were
Yeah,
having off mic?
yeah, but it is your faith in what has happened, and the faith is not in something that, oh, I believe, but it is based on something that is solid and you can and touch it
Bounded
and
and bounded reality. All right.
right.
So
So a lot of people say, oh, Christians, they have no sense. They always talk about this concept of faith in Christ and things. But those guys, yeah,
all
they
right.
were
So
transformed.
we are. I think we need to bring them into the conversation fully.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were
So
transformed
to get
because it
the
was an empty
foundation of
tomb and it transformed their life.
yes. So always in matters of um, faith and science, we are looking. We're seeking to move or faith-based reality from a place of suspicion and superstition into one of integrity and credibility.
Correct.
Modern world operates based on scientific data that you can track and measure and evaluate and find consistency and trends in it, which you can say this has integrity. Whereas out there in the world of faith, we're like gamblers. We keep using the same methodology formula, saying the same thing, hoping for a different result from what we got last time, and not being at all put off that 99 times out of 100 it didn't work. But we expect that it will work because we operate based on a knowledge of something that is eternal and it's not time bound. So when it happens in the will of God. Christians end up being ridiculed. And I mean, some of us behave in a way that draws the ridicule, but we end up being ridiculed for grasping at straw and smoke and believing in myths and fiction.
They're not myths and fiction.
But so the
Yeah.
word faith is only understood in the context of an invisible, unseen creator of some divine capabilities which exceed the natural realities or the natural understanding of man. When a person says faith, they are talking about God and a belief that he exists and that he has certain characteristics which are beneficial to us. That is faith. The other thing that you call trust and is based on trust is based on experience and consistent behavior under certain conditions. If it moves in this way, you say, I will trust it because the last 9 times out of 10, it gave me a reliable result. So you trust or you mistrust based on real world evidence. The apostolic movement, this is how the apostles came to be the ones responsible for taking the gospel as witnesses in Jerusalem. And Christ used the word witnesses. He said, you will be my witness in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the end of the earth, the world.
And where,
Distant places like Jamaica,
and India and all the places
India, all
talking
those
about
places
Thomas.
that were,
But you
yeah,
know it was based on their experience and what
yes,
they were told the
real world
world. So
experience.
people say that our
Our
faith
faith is based on myths and fiction.
is
No,
not. It is based on real world,
real world
world
experience.
experience.
So I was saying to Pastor Percival that in John chapter 20, yes, in John chapter 20, when Jesus appeared to the apostles, disciples at the time, when he appeared to them and said, the first time, Mary Magdalene had run and said, I saw him, he's risen. And they were gathered together in this house, and Jesus entered their midst without opening a door.
Mm-hmm.
He appeared among them with this new body that I'm looking forward to. He blessed them, peace, and then he showed them his hands and his side.
Because remember, initially they ran away, they were dispersed.
Of course, they were in fear. The leader had been taken,
Yes.
killed by wicked people. They knew him as a man of power. They thought that his power would have caused him to release himself from the situation that he was in. He did not. He submitted, was killed like a commoner. So now they can only expect the same to happen to them. Because if he couldn't help himself, is he going to help us and he's in the grave? They forgot all that.
They ran away. They ran away.
They ran away dispersed in fear.
Even though they had interacted with him for 3.5 years.
For 3.5 years.
And
he told them.
I was telling this is what would happen. Then
what he told them, they had no reference for it in reality. So they could never imagine this is what would happen. But he physically showed them the markings on his body. That is real world evidence. And it was tested within hours. Thomas, who was absent from the show and tell, got news first. So you would say then he would be the first one to whom the witnesses were speaking.
Yeah, say Jesus is about.
Can you imagine he came? We saw him.
And we touch on him, say, and then he comes. Unless.
And he says to them at the end of that incredible tale,
Unless.
what as so many of us still say today. Boy, man, many times I hear people say, boy, Jesus would have to tell me that himself.
And people.
Unless Jesus come down and tell me. Right then and there, Thomas, who had shared a heartbeat with Jesus and with the rest of them, did not regard this account by his fellow disciples as credible. He insisted, I have to see it myself. Unless I touch. Many times I hear people disparage Thomas and they call him doubting Thomas and so on and so forth. But I think in that exchange, Jesus is laying the foundation for those of us who believe without seeing, who believe by faith. Mm-hmm. He's saying you are blessed when you believe by faith. You have not seen, you have not touched, you have heard the report of witnesses who saw and touched. So you can say, all right, these are real people who saw and touched something. But then over time, he knew there's no one today who's speaking to an apostle who saw and touched. If you are, you're not.
But the records are there, and
so we are relying on the records.
You are in the court of law based on the testimonies and things and all of the accounts. It is even strong.
We still have side cases from.
I'm no. So therefore, if there's a guy who says no, this Christian is foolishness, and he was a lawyer. They actually went and examined all of the evidences, biblical and extra biblical, and them say, no man, the impact, it's not made up. It's not a made up thing based on the witnesses and the accounts and all of the things that were there.
Thomas said, unless I see in his hand the print of the nail, and put my finger into the print of the nail, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. That is the reaction of many people.
The doubting people doubt.
To say, I need to be satisfied to my own standards that this is true. Mm-hmm. And so what do you think Jesus did when he appeared to Thomas? He didn't have to. He could have said, receive by faith or perish.
He simply said to him, come touch.
Said, yeah, reach your finger here. Look at my hand. Reach your hand here. Put it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believing. So, all this to say, there is hard, real world data behind these occurrences of which the apostles gave their testimony. And coming down the line to us now, 2,000 years later, it is as relevant today to examine and be satisfied with the history of things as it was then. The value of it, the impact of it, is not diminished by the passage of time.
No.
If it was true on day one, on day 10,000, when you hear it, the truth remains as potent.
So even as people try to change the narrative, because one of the things, people need to recognize, there are some people who have gone out of their way to disprove and to say what is there is foolishness, but when you examine the hardcore data facts, it stands up in the court of law.
Even by the standards of men.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we will relate it now to the
real
things
world.
that are happening.
Real world.
Because you're wondering why Minute and Percy still talk about the reality of Christ and the value of faith. You're going to see when we return after this break.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Welcome back. Wow, we are having a lot of conversation in the break, but I'm not gonna pick up from the fascinating things spoken in the break. I'm gonna pick up from where we left off. Percy and I, pushed in some part by my questions, have been talking about not just the heart, mind, body connection, and how we can achieve some semblance of integrity and healing individually within ourselves, but in terms of our interactions with one another, how we can bring about a sort of
Unity.
groundswell of change that is in accordance with the positive energy and the light of God, which, Jesus is the light. And we started to talk about the fact that in the narrative, in the history of the apostolic movement, there was hardcore physical evidence which caused the apostles to say, yes, the man who walked with us, taught us for 3 years, died.
Now see him dead.
We saw him crucified. We accepted that he had died. And 3 days later, he did self-resurrect, appeared to us, showed the markings of the crucifixion to us. We saw it. And while the others may not have crowded him and poked his body
Thomas
in
did.
that first visit, Thomas did, because Thomas asked for it. And I would say Thomas was prophetic in the asking, because I think just once Jesus was there, he would have accepted. But Jesus facilitated his specific request by saying, put your finger here, put your hand here. This is me. Thomas asked it for us, for those of us down the line 2,000 years later who are still being attacked in our faith by those who say it's not true, the man never exists, Jesus is a ship that stole people from Africa.
Or Jesus is like, and their ship didn't name Jesus for true.
Yes, but to really see the marks of oppression in his
Body.
advent, as opposed to seeing the marks of salvation in the mutilation of his body. So we come 2,000 years later, the live witnesses at the time who touched and saw got from Jesus a pronouncement that you today believe because you have seen, but I pronounce a blessing on those in the future and those who will believe having not seen, which takes it down the line right into Minette and Percival today sitting and talking about this event that happened over 2,000 years ago. What does it mean for you in today's world with all the things that are happening? Technology has raced ahead of religion and Christianity.
Raced ahead of man. And
Yes.
everybody said that the technology is going to lead to the destruction of humankind. That's the latest thing.
Yes, that's been the
AI.
existential crisis which
that
we have
AI has
created.
prevented. And I'm saying, because I am a man of faith and I'm not ruled by fear, and because I know the person who controls the runnings.
Or because you have eternal life.
Yeah, but
And
because,
if you have eternal life, who can destroy it?
no, me know, but I'm not.
So they'll destroy themselves.
Yes.
And
No, but
leave the
I'm
rest
saying,
out.
I'm in, the boss.
Yes.
The boss.
You're
who
in the
control
council. You're in the council of
all
the
of
boss.
us can be in it. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
that there be light.
Yeah.
When there is the entrance of light, it dispels all darkness and the darkness that is there. You talk about unity and the need right at this point in time for there to be within the body politic in Jamaica for people to say, no man, this darkness that we're seeing, we believe that there is something different. And we believe by coming together, we can counter, we can dispel this darkness that seems to
And
the end
pull
of
it into reality.
Yeah.
How do you
That-
think the kingdom of God going to come? It's believing men and women who are going to usher it in.
Yeah, who
Because
are
it-
not afraid of anything.
Yes.
They operate in faith. So
Yeah.
Jamaicans, yesterday I called for, it is following on the call of the 72-year-old, the 72-year-old man who said, I'm ready to take up his
take up his
cutlass.
machete.
No, but versus the other man who countered and said,
come together peacefully.
Come together peacefully. Just one
Yeah.
day, 3 days, we just lock it down.
Yeah.
Don't do anything.
So, oh gosh,
Move anywhere.
I want us to look at current events, but
Yeah.
you've teased my mind with the scripture from Philippians. I mentioned it. You actually had the, why did Paul tell them to think on these things? Not even
Philippians
to
4,
do them, you know.
Think
on these things.
and
Well,
why
I find
the
it.
yeah man, Philippians 4:8.
I just want to find it. Because many a times we say, oh, we talk too much.
But it's in your thinking that you bring about the change.
Yeah.
And I keep
Yeah.
telling people, the man said, you too much
Meditate
theory. Man
on
said
these
too much
things.
theory and no practical. I said, but you can't do
Can't get
anything
to the practical
if you don't have the theory to back it.
without
Because,
building it fully in your mind,
Because-
where things are created.
and I tell people, you can't wait until you're in the situation to know how you're going to act. You have to have a plan that when in the situation, you've thought about it, and you're good to go, you can move. So here's Philippians 4:8. But he says, let's go back. He says, rejoice in the Lord. I'll say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything. But in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God.
Yeah, but you rushed over, do not be anxious. Anxiety occurs in the mind.
Yes.
So he's here talking about maintaining a calm and a sobriety and a peacefulness that will allow for your heart and your brain to be
Peace of God
existing
to
at
rule.
the same vibration which is within the peace of God.
But in every situation, not so
I
much.
see many anxious Christians.
Oh, yeah.
I see
I mean, I think about many anxious Christians who are Jamaicans. So the big set is Jamaicans.
And I see
and
many
the
anxious Jamaicans.
So the big set is
Because-
Jamaican.
right.
Remember
Yeah.
mathematics, and the subset is Christian.
Yeah.
But then there's a intersecting thing, which is anxious Christians. Anxious Christians who are Jamaicans. But he says, do not be anxious about anything. But in some situations, no. But in every situation, by prayer, relationship, and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God.
And the peace of God,
God,
which surpasses all understanding. This
God.
is just peace that is inconsistent with
fear.
visible, physical reality. In other words, you're in prison, you're on the cross being crucified, you're standing in the presence of enemies who are stoning you, you're standing in the presence of powerful people who are disparaging you, or who are humiliating you, or who are seeking to destroy you.
And to say,
In
man of evil
that
against you.
circumstance, you get a peace which is ridiculous, because nothing that is happening to you is anything that could inspire or induce peace.
And let me just share.
And it guard your heart and your mind.
Mind.
Here we're talking again about the
Heart
heart and
and
the
mind.
brain. This is the
Connection.
peace that will bring you into coherence with your heart and your mind, moving at the same frequency, and therefore your body, you will not get a heart attack when that is happening. You will not get stroke when that is happening. Your aneurysm that's been floating about in your system, I feel everybody have an aneurysm. That is,
And it is destroyed because
it
the peace
will not
overtaken.
reach,
The light take it over and destroy it.
and break it apart.
All right. Everything that comes
Because
into the
that
light of
peace
God.
is a healing peace.
Yeah.
It's a restorative peace.
And it is found
And
in the door.
it is, it's found through your getting into a direct communication with your creator spiritually.
Yeah, get back
Spirit
into the light.
communication gets
Get
you
back-
there.
get back into
And
the-
then he goes into an instruction now on meditation. What do you think
Mind.
about? Because it's your thoughts
That will drive your action.
that will bring your physical body into harmony. It's your thoughts. It's what you think. If you think I'm hungry, your stomach may send up a signal that says, give me food. Because on the physical side, on the chemical side, juices are being released out of habit, autonomously. Things are happening. You can give an instruction to your stomach.
All right, you're not having any food. Calm
Nothing is
yourself.
coming, so calm yourself.
It's not
I
happening.
love it.
It's not happening. You know, and
Calm
you know,
yourself. Your brain will immediately shut down the organs that are sending out the juices that are waiting on
it will sit
food.
down. It will sit down. No, you see this piece. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
We make light of this piece, and a lot of persons don't have a peace about anything at all. They are running all over the place.
Like Madance. You know Madance?
Yes, yes.
We-
No, that will
we
come
can- We cannot see their strategies, so we
but,
call them Madance.
but they have a strategy. But this piece is so important. The story is told of this wife who husband was beating her. Okay? And her husband got converted. This is in another country. And she couldn't believe the change that happened in her husband. So she got converted. So she get converted, but her husband eventually dies. But because of her experience and converted to Christianity, she begins to tell everybody. Now she's in a Muslim country.
Yes.
And the man called her and said, I know your parents from a long time, you know. You know what you're doing. It's not allowed in our culture. She said, well, I saw the transformation in my husband. I see what has happened, but me can't do anything. So it's all right. Here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you time to think about it, but I'm going to put you in the worst cell, and you'll consider. Now this lady had a fear of the darkness, fear of rat. And in the cell that they put her, it was dark and it was full of rats. And so they expect that, oh, she's going
Be
to go
screaming
out.
and yes.
The lady's account said she said she was fearful, but then all of a sudden, they put her in. A peace came over her. She started to sing.
Yes.
She started to sing. And the jailers who are those that put her in there says, we expect her to be screaming and things, and she sing. And the guy takes her out and says, you know,
Transformers too.
we're gone, you know, but I want to come and talk to my wife. So they have this fear. Even though he knew
Yes. The source.
of the thing, he said, no man, you can't change that. And
But you see, and
so this piece that we talk about.
yeah, and Jesus himself did not discount the impact of this real world evidence. So he made sure that they had it.
Yeah.
Because as long as, and this is what happened with in your story of the jailer.
Yeah.
Although the jailer know that this woman is betraying the faith, the impact that he saw and the possibility that this could help his wife. He not give that up.
Not give that up. So we talk about this peace.
Yeah.
It's a peace that a lot of Jamaicans have experienced, but more of them need to come into even the anxious
Well,
Christians.
can I tell you that for me now, what I am seeking to pull out of my fellow country men and women
Yes.
is boldness in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Because
that's what
I
we say.
believe that we are in our private space where it matters.
Yes.
We are the kind of people who show love,
Yes.
hospitality,
Right.
have noble things on our minds.
But no.
And the crush and push for survival actually cause us to behave out of character.
Correct.
I do not believe that we are monsters on the average.
But it's time to act on those things.
When
It's
it's
time
the boldness.
it's time
The
to
boldness.
allow that peace that a lot of us are being to act, that we are impacting our circumstances.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Enlighten was just really, we said, boy, you don't know. But we say, Enlighten, we have faith.
So you call for 3 days, stay home.
Yeah, I'm saying beginning today's Thursday, 3 days, next week, stay home and pray at the yard peacefully.
Yes, and fast.
Yeah, and fast. And bring about the transformation everywhere.
And while you're there, this is why we were at Philippians 4 verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, he included beauty, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report. If there's any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. The things which you learned and received and heard and saw in me, these do, and the God of peace will be with you. So he gave an instruction that spent way more time emphasizing that in your thought life,
Yes.
this is where you would have said then the magic begins. The secret sauce is what you think about. And he's saying to persons here, meditate on the things that are noble, the things that show us at our higher, more virtuous self. When you see a big man pick up a small child, or a small child lead an elderly person across the road, whatever it is that you know constitutes noble character.
Let's begin to practice those things.
No, he's saying think on it first.
Yes.
Think on it first in your spare time. Don't be thinking about the people who broke into your house and take your things. Don't be thinking about the lawlessness on the street and how people bad drive you. Don't be thinking about the thievery in high places and the betrayal of trust that exists in places like the church or your banking institution or within the profession that you're a part of. Don't be focusing on the things that show human beings behaving at their worst. Think about the things which show us behaving with nobility and integrity and character. That's what he's thinking. Because if that's what you're thinking about, your
Shift your
conversation will be about that,
Shift your focus.
and your actions will be
That's
in
what I
that
shift.
vein.
Yeah.
He says, whatever things are pure, the innocence of a child, the beauty of a flower, the things that are uncontaminated by the disease and the impurities of this world. Don't constantly be looking at, what's the name of the dump
negative.
again?
Riverton.
Riverton. Don't be thinking, or if you go to Riverton and you see a plant managing to survive in all of that chaos,
Amazing.
see that and be amazed by the purity of life in its basic form. You think on the things that are pure. Well, look at it. You could think about running water instead of thinking about the river that the company has polluted time and time again. Think about the one that is pure and clean, running out of the mountain. Cool, you could drink it without even
Blanco Mountains, out of Catholic country.
yes, you think about those things. You think about those individuals who are out there fighting for justice, fighting for the rights of children, fighting for the rights of the vulnerable, the abused. You think about them. You don't think about the ones who are out there putting guns to the head of old people, raping old women, abusing the trust of children, and so on and so forth. He's not saying these things don't exist.
They're just saying,
He's saying do not
shift your
let
focus.
that be the dominant thing in your thought life, because those things will fill you with fear,
Yes.
with anxiety.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying be anxious about nothing. Those things fill you with emotions that have a negative impact on your DNA. Remember we spoke about the double helix, when it is influenced by thoughts of love and
all of
positive emotions,
Right.
it relaxes to the point where it repairs itself and it can replicate and give you more healthy cells. So you can beat cancer. You can beat
You know that
whatever
there's the
disease
people who
affecting your kidneys, your lungs.
You know, I saw it, it's a Jamaican, and she was talking about stage 5 cancer, and she was saying, which is something that is more research is emerging in terms of, there's a plant, I'm trying to remember the plant. They take sauce up leaf, and she's drinking it.
Yeah.
But then they say, go on home, go, thing, and
Go
she started
die.
taking it. I said, but the more important thing was my thoughts.
Yes.
She said, beyond drinking it, my thoughts helped me. And she said, I go back and check and them said, you don't find no cancer cell in your body. But she said, it began with her in terms of her thoughts. Wow.
When you're drinking it, I was in the presence of a pastor who opened a bottle of water, and the way the man blessed the water and declared the water to be a healing stream as he takes it in. He said, that's what I do, man. I bless my food. Anything I'm eating, I give it instructions on what it should do inside my body. This water is holy water. This water is blessed by God. This water will bring life to my organs. And he consumed. There are persons who they got the revelation that what you think the instructions you give to your food. When it gets into your body, it will do as it is told.
That's
But
why
the
Jesus
Apostle
would tell him, no
Paul,
matter if you eat poison. Yes.
yes,
You can eat poison,
eat poison.
and it can't happen to you. It can't affect you.
yeah, poisonous snakes
The light-
sting you and
Lord,
it just
the
falls
light
out of your
has come
body.
into you. You
Yeah,
walk in the
because the
light.
light that is in you expels anything
Yeah.
that is dark, just decimates it. That, you know, I went to the thought life in Philippians because I was speaking about the imprint of the impartation which we can give to each other through the positive words. That's why people talk about the declarations and so on and so forth, because
And I have to use that in counseling, affirmation, daily
Yes,
affirmation, to
yes,
shift
yeah.
people's self-esteem, low self-esteem, low self-confidence. Mind, reprogram your mind.
yeah. So your mind can then reverse, redirect, transform the science of what's taking place in your body, because your body is built to take the command from the brain, release this now, withdraw that, shut down this, open up that. Those are the autonomous nervous system works on those impulses. So even while you're sleeping and you're not thinking about food, if your body was wanting food and you fell asleep, while you are asleep, things are going on in your body without your conscious command and
recuperating.
control.
Yeah.
But if you know that you have this power, you can, as you're putting yourself to sleep, give your heart will give your brain certain instructions, and they come into agreement on it. Let's say 2 or more agree. They come into agreement on it, and your brain don't bother with them instructions in the night that said this, do that, or whatever.
That's why sleep is important.
It sets a baseline.
Recovery, restoration, healing.
Yeah.
It becomes an important thing. You keep saying fix your mind, fix your thoughts, and one version says fix your thoughts.
Yeah.
And it is be important. And you know, as we are talking about change in our country that is needed, like wow, as a friend of mine would say.
Like, wow.
Like really, like wow, we really need to now begin to shift focus from negative in order to positive, transform individual or value the things that are important to us, do that in our individual lives. Yesterday night I was talking about the garbage that we see, and he says if every single person would deal with your garbage, then it wouldn't be a problem. So it's about taking accountability for your thoughts, your action, and then you can only be responsible for what you are responsible for. You can't say the other person, because we always think the other person must be. So you do that, and then in your families, if families begin to do that, then you are changing the frequency in families. And if the frequency in families are changed because families are in one accord, then it spills over into the community.
Absolutely.
It spills over
And
into
from
the community.
it just keeps radiating onto a larger field.
Right.
It covered the country.
Yeah.
It covered the world eventually.
So if you have come into the light and understand what it means for you, and light, the entrance of light brings
The entrance of your
knowledge.
word. Your word brings light.
Right. The word.
And the word is light.
Right, yeah. And so it is a shift. Dennis Brown, do you know what it is to have a revolution? A simple revolution of light, which is aligned to love, which is aligned to taking personal responsibility, and we begin to shift. So let us, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, reflect on these things
While in our home.
while in our homes.
Does that mean we won't be on air?
No, we have to be on here encouraging them. It's a serious thing, though. This thing to say, no, we've had enough. Let's move forward.
Do something within your, that is within your authority, within you. This we started a long time ago, reminding people you have sovereign control over your body.
Personal authority, yeah.
whether you decide to move it from this chair to the next chair, from your bed to the floor, from the floor to the bathroom, to out of the house into a bus, into your car to go to work, you have control.
Yeah.
There's no government, there's no state power that can force you to leave your castle.
That's true.
And
it's
I
that-
add to your call. Don't call nobody and tell them what you're doing. Anybody wants you can find you. And they will look for you and not find you.
Aye.
Let's take the break. I see the signal. It's 8 o'clock.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935. Welcome back to the Morning Connection. It is now 14 minutes after 9 or 8.
Are you whispering?
14 minutes after 9 or 8.
Are you ashamed of the time?
No, I'm not ashamed
It's
of it.
8:14. Yeah, we're midway through the program.
Yeah.
Percy and I are touching on something. I hope you're not finding it too obscure or arcane, because we have gone back 2,000 years, 2,000 odd years. We're still saying 2,000 years,
2,000
even though
odd.
it's more than that.
2023.
Yeah. we've gone back a little bit, really to touch on the real world evidence that there was a man, Jesus, who was resurrected and who showed him his resurrected body to his disciples and who sent them out as apostles with some instructions. The instructions come down to us today, requiring us to believe what they have said without or actually having seen it, but
And we are blessed because of
always
it.
referring to the empirical evidence of their day, that they saw it, they touched it. And as Percy said, he blessed us. He said, blessed are those who, having not seen, believe, will believe, or have believed. And we have believed. This morning, we want to say as strongly as we can to the citizens of Jamaica, and if you hear it, share it with your neighbor. When you hear it, share it with your neighbor. If you catch the revelation, what we're talking about the ability which we have. Every individual created breathing person has the ability to self-regulate. In fact, I think to self-regulate. We have the ability to bring healing, restoration, peace, and balance to our bodies by what we think. And we went into the Apostle Paul writing to the Philippians and telling them, meditate on certain things. When you meditate on those things, scientists have now worked the experiments to show that your DNA, the smallest cellular organism, your DNA responds positively to these things and create in your body the environment for healing and for growth, for the curing of diseases. Simply put, Percival gave an example of a lady who had used soursop effectively with her stage 5 cancer, but she was bold enough to say it was not just the chemical of what I consumed. It was what I did in my thought life. I shifted my perspective.
Focus on the positive thing. She said, I don't tell people. I wasn't focusing on the cancer. I was just saying, it's good to be alive, the positive things that are happening. And she don't have no stage for the test already. Cancer is gone out of her body. Because they have put her and says, okay, prepare to die. And that's where you're at. And total transformation.
Yes, man dismissed her and sent her home to die. And she went and found her healing coming out of what she had around her, in her head and in her environment. All this to say that right now we feel we are singular, we're individuals, and we are looking and saying, where are the others who are going to come and join in this or that to make it successful? You can start with you and the boldness that you require to take you into that level of action. It's also available. Because we were talking about the Pentecost and the fire that it brought, and what the release of the Holy Spirit to work in harmony with individuals who are ready to embrace it and use it to fuel change in their life and in their communities.
And those
it gives you access to certain things.
Those people fuel change, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And then Percy reminded me, well, I started to talk about the prayer that the apostles prayed after they had been taken in by, let's say, high society, the authorities, the powers that be.
Say, shut your mouth.
They had been taken in and threatened. And they went back to their companions and spoke of it. And a prayer was prayed, which I say to people, go find the prayer in Acts chapter 4. Read from verse 23 and see what they did. They were taken in. Peter and John were taken in because they had stopped at the gate beautiful, and everybody knows silver and gold have I none. But such as I have give I unto you. In the name of Jesus, rise up and walk. I don't even know. Well, by this time they were just on a high and saying it as the Spirit led them. The man, everybody knew this man had been lying in the gate of the temple. They passed him going day and night, begging alms. Everybody knows of him. When he was walking around the town saying, look at me, dancing, skipping, and exhibiting the manifested power of God in his renewed body, it could not be ignored. There are some things which cannot be ignored. So, of course, it got reported upstream. There's a man walking around. They said 2 people came by. Pray for my healing. So Peter and John were taken before the council. Many of us have been taken before the council. The council is eternal, it always exists. You go before the General Legal Council if you're a lawyer. You go before the Court of Law if you are someone accused of some criminal event. You are before the Medical Council if you're a medical practitioner. There
And
are
all the
many
different
councils
that
which
are
are
there.
in operation today, and they are doing the same thing. They're inquiring into matters of behavior or belief or occurrences which are being condemned and which have been brought to them for adjudication.
But I like the point that you have made in terms of the different councils. This call that you are making for people to stand up, stand out, stand forth in terms of walking, it cuts across
All councils.
all councils, meaning every single person,
Yes.
wherever you are at, it's time to stand up. It cannot be middle, lower, upper. It's for all Jamaicans.
And they
to
need to
stand.
know,
Yeah.
they need to know that when you stand out like that and you stand up, there is the risk that somebody gonna carry you before a council.
Yes.
Do not be afraid of the council. And here's why we say it. They were taken before the council and arrested and held overnight. The next day, they were asked to explain themselves. By what power are you doing these things? And when they realized, as will be done with some of you, that these were untrained illiterates, unskilled people, which you're there sitting in your yard saying, but look at me, I'm just at this or I'm just at that. What influence can I have? Oh no,
Like
you
a
have great
Gideon.
power. You can be the Gideon. When they were recognized as being people of no great reputation, that made it even worse because the council said, but I can't ignore this. The man is there walking around. It is clear that they have done a good thing for this man. We don't kill Jesus already, who used to do all these things. We can't kill every person
Everybody who come up.
up. Let us just threaten them severely. The method of the threat, you have to understand now in today's day, they might not, because we have freedom of speech. So they can't just haul you in and tell you don't speak. They are going to find a way. The threat might be prolonged litigation. They bring
Economic
a
threat.
charge against you and it never comes up for trial. You're constantly under the boot heel of it. You keep hearing that, oh, but there's a case against you, or and a lot of us are afraid of being brought before the council. We don't have the money to pay lawyers to keep us out of trouble, and we don't have the skills to deal with it. So we are afraid, and because of that fear, we don't set out. Well, here
Take a
comes.
step, take a step, take a-
Take a step
Take
in
a step.
boldness. You know, remember when we had the issue with the taxi drivers and their many tickets?
Yes.
And I said on air, all of you go and pay your tickets one time
And see what happens.
and see what happens. So the power in numbers will also cause
I like
the
it. The
system.
power in numbers, the power in numbers,
Yeah.
power in unity.
It will
in one
cause the
accord.
system to decide, can I really? It's one thing when we have two people that we're terrorizing, but
We have
can I take
thousands.
on the nation of Jamaica showing up to express and to demand? They said, let us threaten them severely and let them go. And what was the threat? The threat was,
Did they beat them?
no, they didn't beat them that time. That was the first. They did lay on some beatings afterwards. They didn't beat them that time. They just threatened them severely and sent them off and said, stop it. Do not speak these things. Enough of this talk about Jesus of Nazareth. And when they went back to their own companions, and this is the part that we're emphasizing this morning, they reported all that had happened with the chief priests and the elders. When the companions heard it, they raised their voice to God with one accord. And Percy has been speaking about the power of being in agreement on these matters, which is we're trying to build agreement. They raised their voice in one accord. They said, Lord, you are God who made heaven and earth. And they recognized the sovereignty of God over the created world. And then they quoted some Psalms pulling from King David, who is highly revered in their culture. And they spoke up against the unlawful, vain plots of the kings and the princes of this world. And then they called on God to answer them. They said, now, Lord, look on their threats. You know, even as we're speaking this, we are, of course, intervening and interceding in the highest courts for our nation. look on their threats and grant to your servants that with all boldness, so the boldness is there. It's been given. It is being revived even as we speak.
In the
With
nation
all
of
boldness,
Jamaica.
they may speak your word. And how is God to show this? By stretching out your hand to heal, and that signs and wonders may be done through the name of your holy servant Jesus. And when they had prayed, the place where they were assembled together was shaken physically. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and they spoke the word of God with boldness.
You
So
know,
we're calling out the bold ones.
and you see this thing of being bold and coming to a place of decision in your life, in your circumstance. What you're not saying, no. We've reached a point. You know, they used to draw the line in the sand and say, "You bad, come over the line." I think
A line in the sand is a good thing to draw because the water just wash it away. You have to keep drawing that line. That's why they draw it in the sand. It's like, where's the line?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
put a
but-
new one.
But in terms of, I think we are now at a point in Jamaica where we are fighting for the soul of our nation in terms of what it is and who we are and what it is general that person believe us to be. Is it that we are a country of righteousness and justice and truth and mercy, or we are the other thing? Any man just do anything he want, and there's no standards that we hold ourselves first accountable to, and secondly that we hold those who govern us to, because those are the things that are being a trial now, right as we speak, with a lot of things that are happening. And so we have to think about it. We have to guard our mind. That is why we went into Philippians 4:8, and it says, don't be anxious, but also don't be fearful, because let's go all the way back to 2020 when this pandemic was declared. The narrative out there was one of fear. And across the world, the narrative of fear was used to control and to as it were, socialize the people to think a certain way. I'm thinking that the pandemic has been declared.
It has ended.
It has ended. And I say people still walking around the place with masks.
We had an interesting experience.
With
We went
masks,
to a place where we were being told that masks are required. But guess who was telling us?
Security.
No, the people who sell the mask. When we went inside, I noticed that the people inside who run the place are not wearing masks. So I said, but why are people outside saying? And then I said, oh my gosh, they're
selling-
creating their own market.
Right.
It's the people selling the masks who are telling you that masks are required. I'm like, oh, we're not fussed about that in there. Nobody was
No,
wearing
but
masks.
the point
But-
really is the point must be made, and the line has been drawn that here we are fighting for the soul of our nation. Yesterday I said it on air in terms of how you respond to what you see happening, and I say I'm not following that narrative. I know that potentially things will happen, but I am stepping forward in fear.
In
And in faith, not in fear. And as the guy says, Lord, give us a spirit of boldness.
Boldness.
That we may confront across the length and breadth of this country crime and violence in our communities, because we now, in a very personal way, have to push back and do what is right.
We can't
We're not
cower.
talking-
Yeah, we can't cower
Oh,
in fear.
yeah.
Because when we do that, going back to the science,
Yeah.
when you do that, the dominant energy is going to set the order of the day.
Yeah.
So if all the community fearful, then everybody gonna be just
Hunkered down and
overwhelmed by
Yeah.
it. If you rise up, then you can push back. But it begins with shifting
Your mindset.
that mindset. of
Changing
fear.
your mind about
We're
it.
talking about boldness, and we
Bold.
said that in this segment we were going to start looking at what's going on in the nation and apply what we're teaching to handling things in the nation. On the front page it says Bolt obtains court order. Long ago when this started, I was not being prophetic. I have
Yeah,
knowledge of
acknowledge.
the law.
Yeah.
I said there is no way the SSL event could have occurred without the complicity, direct involvement,
Banks.
facilitating action of commercial banks, because money can't move without a licensed commercial bank playing a role. Finally, Bolt has got a court order for 2 commercial banks to give information on the movements of money from this lady's account. And what has the Gleaner said? The Gleaner says, we will not at this time name the 2 financial institutions that are based in Jamaica.
Let there be light.
When we return after the break, we're
Let
going to
there
talk
be
about
light.
what this means to take a position like that and to state it so boldly. Where is the boldness in the truth and transparency that everybody calls for? Take our break.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876 276 8935.
We are back. We should at this juncture, welcome back.
All right.
We should at this juncture explain that this morning we're not going to have a guest from JPS. We are instead going to repeat those questions, which will allow one lucky listener.
No, 3 lucky listeners.
Well,
Three $10,000
yeah, but
vouchers.
it could be one by.
Oh, one person can get it.
one
Oh, I wish I could. To them. Be a bit like that. Oh my
It will allow,
God.
okay, let me modify it then to be fair. It will allow any lucky listener who can provide the answers to the 3 questions, any one of the 3 questions or all of the 3 questions. You approach it as you see fit. Each question is worth $10,000 in energy vouchers, JPS energy vouchers. The first question is, when did the tram car service end in Jamaica? This is the tram car service that was provided by JPS. So if there was some other tram car that we don't know about, please don't come and tell us about the tram car that was running in your village by, Farmer Joe. The second question is, which power plant is a floating barge? And floating is important because it could be a retired barge that is on land somewhere. Floating barge. There's a reason it was floating or is floating. And the third question is, what is the name of the network for charging electric vehicles, which is being built now by JPS? So in our JPS segment this morning, we are repeating the questions that were asked by the vivacious Audrey Williams the last time. That she was here.
Yes.
The first question, when did the tram car service operated by JPS end? When did it end? And the second question is, which power plant is a floating barge? Question number 3 is, what is the name of the network for charging electric vehicles being built now by JPS? Our lucky winner from the last season was none other than our Miss Bailey.
Okay, right. Yeah, she won it, yeah.
Yes. She won the questions that were posed in the segment on JPS's initiative in the tree planting competition and what it is that they are doing in the communities that require electrification proper. Where all go again? Where the consumers need to be converted to customers. Right. Miss Bailey, Denise Bailey, gave those answers for a grand total prize of $15,000.
Okay.
Yes. And when I spoke with her, I had an exchange with her online. JPS has already taken care of her winnings.
Oh my Lord.
because
I wish I was in her place.
We have to find a way to get some winnings for you.
Oh, jeez.
Right. And Earl Brown says, in US dollars? No, Earl Brown. You should be asking Canadian dollars. But even amongst the overseas listeners, you can participate, because if you have relatives in Jamaica who are customers of the of JPS, you can apply the winnings to their account, because they don't require you to spend it on your own account. You can spend it on any JPS account.
All right.
Right. Not to give ideas beyond saying you can participate and someone else have benefit of your winnings. I was trying to find the the others. We never got a winner for the first time we were offered these energy bucks.
After the guys had
The
the conference.
guys, yes.
Well, just one, yeah. But
Yeah, we
a
were
winner.
not able to. I wonder if that, you know what? Maybe one day we'll revisit that question and see, because the gift does not expire. Because that's the other beautiful thing about the JPS energy vouchers. So long as there's JPS and she is 100 years old.
Right. She is.
Yeah,
She is.
Yeah. You notice when it's a long living entity, it's a she. Why is that? We apply the female energy.
I don't know.
So we say she is 100 years old. JPS is 100 years old this week. And Percy, did your wife enjoy the mug?
Yeah,
Has
she did.
used it?
Yeah, that's what
you
she's
said she
using now.
commissioned it?
Yes. A massive mug.
It's a massive mug. I didn't realize that it was super sized.
No, man.
Yeah, but we enjoyed. Just so you know, Percival and I shared the basket, and I tell
I
you, there was
enjoyed it.
enough to go around. You enjoyed your share of it. Yeah, there were chocolates and a mug, which Mrs. Palmer is a tea drinker.
Yes, right.
So that one went home with Percival, specifically for her, not for Percy. Because when we produce these programs, your whole family give up a little something to make the program possible.
Tell me about it.
And your wife, well, tell me if it's a little something she give up, but she gives up the company of Percy early in the morning,
Yes.
which is serious snuggling time.
You understand?
So, what did Lowell give? Oh, I think Lowell got the champagne,
Yeah, right.
the alcohol-free champagne, because we both journey here to do the program in the mornings. Ooh, Earl Brown put an answer on Earl. All right, but you have to spell the word correctly, or else they'll say you're answering a different question. Earl Brown said the tramp stop run. May 10th. Very specific. I'm gonna log that. Let's log the answer. What time is it? 8:41.
Yes.
Earl, I'm logging the answer. 8:41 a.m. on the 1st of June, 2023, Earl Brown. Answering question 1. Well, I tell you, that kind of precision says something. All right. Got that, Mr. Brown? I shall communicate your response and test it against the other answers we have received for accuracy. The first correct answer naturally wins the prize. So that's a $10,000 prize. So please revisit the episode of our show that's online if you have to, and participate. Get some. Well, Earl is telling us that the floating barge was sailed from Japan,
It's true.
but that was not one of the questions.
Where it is. Yeah. What we need.
We need the name of it. That answer though, he said call it trump card. Earl, please stop distracting me with those outrageous responses. Look
Okay.
what he wrote. Oh boy. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So before we took the break, I commented that Usain Bolt's attorneys have got an order for the commercial banks with whom Jean Ann Panton maintained her accounts, for those banks to disclose information on the movement of funds, the history of accounts, disclose the transaction history of accounts owned by Jean Ann Panton, the only person charged in the $3 billion fraud at Stocks and Securities Limited. I am expecting that such an order would also include the movements of funds from Stocks and Securities Limited accounts, because the money had to first leave Stocks and Securities before it got to Jean Ann Panton, and then from Jean Ann Panton to wherever she may have sent it, if they think that there are assets somewhere in the world which they can trace to make in order to make a recovery. But this order speaks to where that lady's money has gone to for the purpose of recovery. The issue in which the Jamaican public has an interest would be higher up in the food chain. What happened to the stocks and securities money as it moved from their account? Where did it go?
Who it gave to and
Who
who
it went to? That's what Jamaican people are interested in. Obviously, Mr. Bolt's lawyers, if they feel that she's the one who took the money, they would be interested in what happened to the money once it came to her.
True.
But we who are interested in the integrity of the financial system, who are interested in the complicity of financial institutions in facilitating the movement of money without the level of inquiry that would have allowed proper regulatory controls. We're operating in a time where for you to move certain sums of money, possibly anything over $10,000, but in Jamaica it can be even $3,000. If somebody sends you $2,000, I think more than $2,000 through a remittance agency, you have to bring in your grandmother to authenticate your identity. You need 3 photo IDs, and you have to answer a raft of questions. So the regular folks who are out there doing sub $10 transactions are put through a lot of hurdles in order to prove that you're not funding terrorism.
You have to jump enough hoops.
You're not funding terrorism. You're not receiving scamming money or sending money to scammers. All kinds of. I tried to send something to an African country recently, and they wanted to know, how did I meet this lady? What is her relationship to me? What should I go do with the money? And I'm now realizing that they're trying to protect me.
Protect you from somebody scamming
Yeah,
you.
because we still here today, shamefully, we think that Africa is a nation of people that need to. Well, I'm not gonna put it that way and say we need to be careful. When you always hear these things about Nigerians and the thing and different people of from African nations engaging in activities, Jamaica is now severely disparaged as a nation of scammers.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why it's a good discussion that we had before in terms of light and thinking and
what we're putting out, the resonance.
We have to change it, and every single person can change that, because here's the deal. Somebody scams. See, overnight them have a big car, them train this party where they're using champagne for beer and all of them things.
You've been to one of those? Look at Percy's expression. But I think I'm in the know. And I'd never heard about the bathing with champagne parties.
Oh, wow. And so,
unless it's somebody named Champagne.
No, I mean so. No. But the fact is, when you see that kind of activity, you must be not fascinating people business, but one day somebody, a teenager or somebody, and then you see this sudden burst of weight, you don't know them things. You need to say, that is putting all of us at risk, and I don't know if people will understand it. And this argument that this scam is reparation. You hear that argument, you know?
Oh, them a take back.
Yeah, it's reparation. No, man.
But let me tell you, those arguments will find fertile soil in an environment where we're not doing the right things about reparation.
Yeah.
So by any means possible becomes an allowable sentiment.
But
they will say it's reparation. Or we're only taking back what they robbed us of.
Mm-hmm. But as we talk about reparations, I just want to mention that June 8th at 7 o'clock, there will be a discussion on reparations, on the findings of Justice Robinson, who used to be he's Jamaican, and he's a part of the International Court of Justice. I think he's recently retired. He's doing a fulsome report in terms of what.
Do you need to mention that is Julian Robinson's father?
He is Julian Robinson's father, and Heather Robinson's father too. Or brother, or whatever it is. But this is happening.
Tracy Robinson's father too.
Because there's some work, it's not in the spotlight, but it has now come to the fore that they actually have a report as to what the dollar value should be in terms of reparation. And this is after 2 years, because remember...
Is it today?
No, the 8th, the 8th of June.
Okay,
yeah. So next week. So putting those who have an interest in
those matters. It will also be live streamed. You sent the...
Yeah, right. So it says, and so you're invited to the launch.
It's a very long person, nobody read all of it.
The report on reparation for transatlantic chattel slavery. And it happens on the 8th of June at 10 o'clock at the regional headquarters on Mona Road. So 10 o'clock, this report, and they've actually put a valuation on it in terms of how much money needs to be paid to the descendants of slaves in the 31 countries, the Caribbean, Central America, South America, and North America. And it will be done by Patrick Robinson, who is a judge of the International Court of Justice. So they've actually now put a figure on it to say how much money needs to be paid out for chattel slavery. But back to what you were talking about, Mr. Bold, and his boldness in terms of not saying, I'm not taking this, I need to know. And you said it early enough. But some of the times we say things and I don't think people listen because there is a process. Things don't happen in a vacuum. Somebody must know there's a process, there are protocols. So he's done the right thing, but it cannot be belated.
Yeah, well, better late than never. It's been done. I caution the gleaner on this kind of sentiment as if an order made in court, which unless it is under gag control, meaning the court has made an order that the details are not to be disclosed and nobody's to talk about it in the media, an order made in court that you actually know and have. I chastise you for making the comment that you will not name the institutions at this time, and you don't even offer an explanation why you would not do so. You, as a national paper, giving people news that you want them to treat as credible, transparent, and of high quality. You take a position like that, you are showing that you are not a disinterested party. Let's put it that way. For one reason or another. If you want to make a commentary about, the possible ill effects and you shouldn't be concerned about that, the bank is the one that needs to cover its bases where that is concerned. But for the public, our interest is in understanding how something of that magnitude could occur for so long without commercial banks being sensitive to the impropriety of the lady's conduct. They know who she is. They know the source of her income. They have a general idea of what transactions ought to be occurring. And hard currency transactions of a certain value are supposed to be reported as a matter of course to FID. If you're not satisfied, if you have cause to be suspicious. Now a lady is coming afterwards to say that some of her activities were downright criminal. How did she satisfy you that what she was doing was legitimate?
Oh, you're talking about the banks now. I've seen that if you get the money after the... Hey, is it serious with the bank? I had a recent thing and I must comment on it. And we need to see it for what it is. The recent move by the financial authorities to bring credit unions under the same onerous things as banks, I think is a step in the back.
It's to disenfranchise people.
It's to disenfranchise persons because the credit union, which is owned by the members, it was a way of storing a lot of economic activities. Because if you had a certain amount of shares, you could borrow against those shares to start business, and all of those things would help you. But now the credit union can't do that. You have to same update, and so you are now stymieing activity.
Yeah. Let's look at it, because it's not about the regulatory burden on individuals, because a man who is doing his lawful business has no shame in saying, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
We understand that Bank of Jamaica, that the whole integrity of the financial sector depends on persons conducting lawful business. There's no problem asking persons the kinds of questions that you yourself have to answer when you try to engage in certain international activities. But when you put a certain level of burden on financial institutions, you add to the cost that they have to pass on to their members. The credit unions, the cooperatives, and so on, were always meant to be there to facilitate an unleashing of the productive and entrepreneurial energy in the lower, smaller business models. That's what it was there for, to facilitate home ownership, to allow you to self-start your businesses, and so on. When you put them under the same kind of regulation and cost structure as the commercial banks, without giving them the license and the freedom to attract the high value business of commercial banks, you're trying to shut them down. That's what you're doing.
And then, and if you want to
if
borrow,
I could do my business in a commercial bank,
I would.
I wouldn't be going to
Into
my
a
co-op.
credit.
It's because my credit union offers me something that is more relatable and attainable. Why I am with my credit union that I own a share in.
You own because you the members are
The
the credit.
members self-fund.
Yeah, the
That's what
self-fund.
that's the model.
And it's unfortunate that it has gone that way.
Yeah, but you know where it comes from, Percy? It comes from the commercial banks seeing that citizens are preferring to put their money together and spend together.
Yeah.
They see the credit unions as competitors, and they are saying to the regulators, if that is my competitor, he must be subject to the same rules and regulation. That's where it's coming from. You know?
It was bad art.
It's bad art. They don't see that their commercial license, their size, and the level, the volume of activity that they do puts them in a different class. What they want, you know, is when you're small, the credit union handle you, and when you get big, you forget your beginnings and move to the commercial bank where they get to do the higher value business that you bring. They see credit unions now funding real estate developments. Credit unions can do that, you know.
Yeah.
They see them funding real estate developments, and they say, but they're taking away our business. I'm telling you, that is the origin of this move to regulate anything that you believe is taking a piece of your food. You want it to be under heavy regulation so it can die.
Yeah, but when you think about it, but that is not forward long-term thinking. Because the truth is, you really want to expand the pie. And a lot of people don't go into commercial banks. So no, if you go to the commercial bank and they're competing, their main market now is for cars, no so? No cars? Their rate, the banks will go 6, 7, 8%. Credit unions are at 11, 12, 13%. How that work? You now go to the bank then, if you need a car loan. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I think it has been very unfortunate.
It is.
And
The
I never
government
knew
fell for it.
And yeah, but then you ask about government and say, really the government they're doing all of these things. Like remember the $100 million loan window that came for people who were in 200 that the minister announced at the last budget, not this budget, and there was no take up for the people who drive taxi. Because you remember that? It was a joke and they said 200 not taken out. So you do these token things, but you're not doing the things that can really fundamentally and strategically shift us from the plantation economy, I call it, to one that really allows for persons in Jamaica to claim Jamaica as their rocky. Every kind of hindrance and blockage is set up that is preventing the liquor man, which is the backbone of your economy, because around the world the data says that most of your GDP, most of your economic growth happens in the small and medium size.
Right.
And we keep saying they need to do, we're not doing the real things that will cause a shift in the economy. So we know that the informal economy in Jamaica, they're talking about it, is 40-50%, probably even bigger.
Well, the fact that we haven't gone into civil war tells you that it's bigger.
Yeah.
Because when people are truly dying, they will use themselves as the ammunition to take down the oppressor.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. So that's the commentary concerning what's happening with SSL and Mr. Bolt. There is a level of work to be done in understanding how the commercial banks participated in this movement of funds. Why didn't the system, which requires us to flag certain transactions, why didn't it work? Why didn't it work to bring attention, or did it work and others failed to carry their end of the bargain? Where did the breakdown take place? Some of us saw it as taking place with the FSC regulator.
But they flagged it, you know.
And we saw that they had done
They
their
were,
work.
and it went to the minister.
Some of us look at the ministry
And
to
the
see
minister
what
said that
happened there.
it was not there. You never get a report. How can
And then it said it was in the building but not brought to him.
oh, foolishness.
And then it was on his desk but not actually read.
But his name, he not to read everything. But if you see, if you look at the sequence of events and all of the half-truths and misinformation
Is it
that
9
goes on
o'clock
there.
already?
Yeah.
We're getting a signal to take a break, and all we've talked about is how we handle this situation with Mr. Bolt and the inquiry into the banking that needs to take place. Please stay with us. 9 o'clock, we'll be right back. Welcome back. In the final hour of the show, we're going to spend some time now applying the principles which Percival and I were speaking about to what's happening around you. To the gleaner, we say boldness. Boldness. You want to speak truth? You want persons to hold you as the bastion of truth and sound reporting? Then be bold and speak it. We know that if you call the name of the bank, it has repercussions for the bank. But guess what? Eventually it's going to come out. And just like how you like to do scoops, scoop this one.
Somebody going to do it.
Boldness. It's going to come out. It will come out on social media more likely than not. And that's the power of social media. The people there are fearless.
So.
They are fearless. But Jamaicans need to be mindful that a lot of the financial crimes that take place, in fact, all of the financial crimes of a certain magnitude, operate through manipulation, breach, or just incompetence of the licensed financial institutions that have the ability to move funds across borders. Credit unions don't have that. Your little co-op, all the places that need a bank account. If you need a bank account to do business, you don't have the capability to really have international impact. You don't. You
Because
can
even
only,
the credit union have to have a bank account.
if you have to have a bank account in order to conduct your business, you don't have the potential to be truly damaging to our reputation in the financial sector. We trust and rely on those who hold the licenses, the commercial licenses. They are the ones who are the true gatekeepers. And if they fail in their job, we have a problem. The kind of money that came out of SSL had to create some kind of sensitivity in a commercial bank somewhere.
Somebody would have to say, hold on.
One really I do.
What is happening here?
Yeah.
And so we hope that Kroll and Associates really, because I think
You're still talking about them.
Kroll and Associates, but they were brought in to help to trace, to track, and
They were brought in by, is it by
the minister.
By the minister? Good. So the minister or the minister or the trustee?
The minister.
A trustee has been appointed over SSL. It is still a matter in court because SSL is saying the trustee of their choice is Mr. Cadian Campbell, and the FSC blocked them in making complete that move and has put in place BRC, Mr. Tomlinson, as trustee. So right now there is a legal issue as to who should be in control as trustee. So that's before the courts. The court ruled, and SSL Campbell are appealing the order by which they were shut out from appointing their own trustee. I think that is where Caroline Hay, King's Counsel, is representing SSL and Cadian Campbell.
Yeah, but okay.
So there are two things happening. There's the matter of who should have control of the SSL assets during this time, such as they are. And then there's the issue of clients of SSL.
Suing. I remember a lady brought
to
a suit
recover.
in. But the little old lady brought
That's
a
Miss
suit.
Ford.
She's in it too?
Yes, she's mentioned.
Okay.
So there is an application by Mr. Bowles, Wellgen, attorneys. They succeeded in getting the order for disclosure.
Okay.
When that order is fulfilled, it should provide details that would be of assistance to Miss Ford. Because you can, these tracing orders are specific to the amounts of money. So if I can show that $10 were taken from Percy's account, it went into Miss Panton's account on a certain date, you can you track when your money left and when it was received in her account, and then you see $10 or $8 going out proximate to the receipt of your money. You see that money going out, you can say, all right, Percy's money went to X place. You see another set of money coming from Jim Brown's account, You notice when it hit her account, and it's
Use
capable.
Percy's account, don't use Jim Brown. That's
Didn't Jim
connotation.
Brown die
I don't even even sure about that.
in prison?
I'm not even
But
sure.
yeah, you see, you can look at when the money left one place, arrived at another,
And where it
and
went.
what happened to it after it arrived. And if it was used to buy a motor car, then Percy can say, I trace my money into the motor car. May I have it, please?
Can I have my motor car?
Yes, yeah.
But that is so different from the lady from NCB who was flossing.
No, they're doing that with her.
They
They're doing
did
that as well.
Oh, so they,
Yes.
because remember.
Yeah, 'cause you can trace where the money went.
So that's what they're doing. So now
Yeah.
they're putting a hold
Yeah.
through FID on the assets.
So when they recover her assets, the bank who has said $119 million
Our money.
belong to me, if they find that that money went into this house versus that house versus whatever asset, you can lay claim to you trace your money into the asset that it was used to obtain.
Oh my Lord.
And
Look.
the truth of the matter is, well, these digital, what I like about the digital, here comes the rain that we spoke about all morning. What I like about the digital economy is that, yeah, you can burn up papers and hide books and chew up whatever you can put in your mouth.
You can't do anything.
But
It is always there.
yeah, let me tell you, man, there are experts who can recover the data from the burn up computer. And if with this cloud computing thing,
It's all there.
from it enter the cloud, it will rain. Somewhere, somehow, you can find it. And I love that about the digital economy. Then the other thing that we wanted to talk about, come Percy, I'm hugging the show. The Prime Minister has called something dangerous rumors.
It's not rumors. It's what the reality is. And what
Let me hear how you answer it.
it's not rumors. It's not rumors. It's always come out of the roots in,
All right.
in the SH.
Yes.
And they know that we see it in
All
Revelation.
right, quote him a little bit now so we can
Reacting
keep
to
it.
rumors and growing suspicion among segments of the society, Prime Minister Holness said it was stupidness that some Jamaicans and others have recently been criticizing the government over its establishment of new banknotes and a cashless system with digital currency.
And what he's referring to, I think we talked about it here. There was a video that was making the rounds with somebody saying how the digital currency, it named some characteristics of the digital world that can have your money being uniquely identified, that can have it geographically fenced so you can only spend it in one area for certain goods and so on and so forth.
Is that true or is it not true?
It is true, but,
Yeah, but-
it is true.
Yeah.
But a good thing to know is that that's not a new thing.
No, it's not a new thing. It's just that it come closer to home.
That is not a new thing. When you have a credit card
You can track it.
and you can see exactly where the monies were spent.
And not only that, when you nowadays, if you use any of your card, boop, in 5 seconds, you get a text message say, "Did you
Did you
spend
use
it?"
it
Yeah, so they
for
know it.
protection?
Yeah,
And persons who have had to, like if you have a debit card, you have an account overseas,
And
or you have a credit card from overseas,
And it's hacked.
you try to buy gas in Jamaica,
Them call
or
it. They call it.
supermarket, they block the transaction.
So you have to
and
call
you have
it-
to call
call.
first and let them know what you're doing in Jamaica.
so it is not a
Because
news. It's
They
not.
were doing it to us on the basis that we are a hotspot for fraud. At that time, most people would have appreciated it as protecting their resources against fraudulent separation, being separated from it fraudulently. But today, we're looking at it with new eyes and expressing concern that this power, which has long been around, is going to be used
know-
abusively to disenfranchise.
Because you don't trust.
And that's because of lack of trust.
Because you don't trust. That is what it is.
That's neither ignorance
No,
nor stupidity.
it's not
It is
stupidness.
lack of trust.
That is what the foundation. Because in other countries, like in like some of the northern countries, you just put the thing and just all over the
You enter
place.
your building, you turn on your lights, you walk to the supermarket and pay for the things that you want to put them in your car.
So it's not stupidness. It's not stupidness. The questions that have been
Concerns that are being
not the
expressed.
concerns. First, start with the characteristics. What people are saying about it, is it true or is it not true?
The technical capability.
It is of it. It
They're
is
all
true. It is all true. So let us don't say it's stupidness. Don't say it's rubbish. All right.
Stupidness.
Stupidness. It is no. It is. So it is.
And then
Okay.
he goes into our community now and he says, representatives of churches and others have in recent months been arguing that the national digital payment infrastructure is part of a new world order and have raised their concerns about it.
But it is a part of it.
And I don't know how they are expressing it because you'd say then it's fulfillment of prophecy.
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
been said,
Yeah, but
and it is so.
and it is being
And we
pushed through
shouldn't-
UN,
we
through
shouldn't-
all of the
we
different
shouldn't
things.
try to deny
Yeah, it
what
is.
the prime minister needs to do. I've nothing wrong with it. We have world order that must change, and scripture says it will change. Whether it is the mark of the beast, which I
Is another
suspect
question.
is where he's going, and you know, now it goes into the world of superstition.
A superstition.
No, that's how we are. Persons who believe in prophecy are regarded as superstitious fanatics who should be disregarded and who are speaking stupidness, and pseudo-intellectuals who are detached from reality. But many prophetic things have come to pass, absurd as they may have seemed
Yeah,
at
look,
the
they
time when
fool
they were first
anything.
spoken, and they have come to pass, and some of them have.
That's why I trust God, That's why I believe in
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, some have worked to the benefit of mankind. Some we struggled with and suffered under it. Some we have overcome because poor knowledge of the event gave us the opportunity to prepare and to respond to it adequately. I think so too it is with the cashless society and the digital age. Persons are rightly concerned that the government is
Pushing it.
pushing two strategies. You're introducing new banknotes when it is clear that you're
You're going
seeking
go
to
cashless.
move with the times and go cashless. Why are you introducing new banknotes? People are right to ask that. But there's an easy answer for it. The cashless society is not going to emerge tomorrow,
True. And you
especially in Jamaica where the technology, the infrastructure for it is so inadequate. Yesterday I had a meeting and one or two persons were supposed to have come online.
and they couldn't
One
come
couldn't make
online.
it at all because the network was down in our community. She said anytime rainfall, this network goes down and you have no internet.
Yeah.
Right here, so in Kingston.
No, but this is not a joke. Cause I was at a place yesterday and they said, we've not had internet for a very long time and it is very slow. And I was at another place on Monday,
this was in
Tuesday.
Kingston?
In Kingston.
Uh-huh.
And I was at another place and the person said, well, it is a government office, as I pointed out. No internet, we can't do nothing. And the people them was about ready to cuss and go on. But you know how much money we spend for come here, sir? And you tell them to come back, the system down. And then you check, I went to another place yesterday and she said, it's moving so slow and it's over there, so too. So me say, oh, it's one. So
Okay, so that's what he needs to be focusing on. Persons, I have been one to say that the strategy will not bring any great benefits to Jamaica as a whole
right now,
until
the whole of the country
infrastructure
have the
is
interest.
brought up to par and everybody's on good quality internet that is clicking along at the speed of light. That's the real challenge I think that we will face. So many persons are going to be left out of that formal system and an alternative system is going to
The barter system will
You
emerge.
don't have to be prophetic to know
Barter
that
system.
survival is the order of the day. If you can't survive over here, so you're
Yeah,
going to
but-
create your own.
So in a
And
lot
that's
of
what's gonna
countries,
happen.
what is emerging is there is another economy, an alternative economy.
Yeah.
I bring some rum, come give you. I want a rum to drink. So what you give me for the rum?
Bring eggs.
I bring eggs, right? Eggs for rum, something like that.
Yeah. So and that's just the order of survival that it will happen. The Prime Minister at one point in his presentation asked to be pardoned from his departure from calmness, saying he had to call it out. So he needs to understand about coherence now and get the brain and the heart to be speaking at once so he don't have to depart from calmness.
Then I have to call it out.
Departure from calmness. he should have said departure from sobriety. There is no mandate to be cashless.
Really,
And he's
Mr.
right.
Prime
There
Minister.
can be no mandate because you don't have.
Well, that's a good one. You know, can have no cash at all. So. Yeah. You have no cash at all. Yeah,
To achieve what's already.
with the cost of living and all the things that happen, you have no cash at all.
So he said there's no mandate to be cashless. There is no attempt by the government to remove cash, meaning paper money, from the system. Just stop for one moment, fullness declared. Just be rational. Why would the government spend billions of dollars to change currency to a new durable banknote? That we don't have to be changing it. Changing it ever so often, only to turn around and take it out of the system. Well said, Mr. Prime Minister. I mean, and that's obviously, they see some longevity to the paper money because we are not at the point. They could never escape. It could never escape their attention that the network is not there to support a fully digital economy.
That's why they're setting up these. That's why they're setting up these points.
No,
they're dealing with it.
Wi-Fi points.
No, that's what.
Wi-Fi hotspot in the community can run the financial sector. The Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi.
No, you build yourself.
Hotspot but in truth, you do that. That is a sop to the urgent need of the people. That is not to be able to carry commercial transactions with the level of security that is required.
Man, how can I assist you?
In a digital economy.
You have on your phone and you go in there, you do the transaction, somebody,
Anyway, he said, this unnecessary and unreasonable and very dangerous trend that is emerging to keep Jamaica out of being on the cutting edge of development.
So Wi-Fi is about?
As I said, it's very hypocritical because the same people who are trying to prevent you from using technology are using technology. When you see them post, tell them, come off TikTok, come off Twitter, and go and talk in the town square where the police can come. I'm adding this. So when you talk in the town square, you need permission. the police can come and ask you for your permission.
You're not being very kind.
To be speaking in the town square.
No, wait, people.
The Prime Minister stated that on Wednesday morning, he was looking at a Twitter post with someone saying, with digital currency, government can restrict your transactions. With digital currency, government could get up today and say, no more, you can't do any business. And that made him upset. He then said how concerned he was for those individuals who were attracted to online rumors. Don't you see it is stupidness? But the number of people who have followed it gets me worried about what Jamaicans are consuming as information. I'm worried. Where is our reasoning? And why is it so simple for us to be attracted to by rumors? As your Prime Minister, I have a duty to call it out when I see it. He shouted, says the leader. All right. We got to help our Prime Minister.
You want to help him?
Well, this morning I didn't know you was having that kind of.
Do not be anxious with the prayer. Let him go pray. Don't start before that, man. Do not be anxious. The Prime Minister is very anxious. He's very anxious. But with prayer and supplication, make your request known to God, which means that we're pointing him back to him source, that him can get the wisdom according to James 3, wisdom that is gentle and pure and all of them things. And then after that, now you can jump into Philippians 4:8, whatever things are good, I think on these things. But him have a little predicament, you know.
I mean, we narrate it like that, it sounds like a plenty steps.
No.
But all he needs to do is to be convicted in his heart that there is a way for this country to be run, and there is a creator who has a plan. He doesn't even need to be making up his own plan.
Yeah, the wisdom
that's
is
what I love about it, Percy.
Yes.
I don't have to make up my own stuff.
I'm just tell you, do this.
Look
Righteousness. You made a comment, and remember the comment you were showing me in the proverb this morning about the belly, the eating of the belly. You need to find it back. You need to find it back.
I will share it with you. The truth is, I did mean to share it. I did mean to share it because when I saw it this morning, it really spoke to me. But you know that you.
No, but that one it is so. So it says, the righteous eats to the satisfying of his soul. But the stomach of the wicked shall be in want.
When I read it this morning,
It just went straight to.
it took me straight to the leadership and the governance structures under which our country operates.
Correct?
I said, if you have people who are in charge of distributing resources, apportioning, prioritizing, whatever they're doing, and they are righteous in their intent,
And they're thinking.
and they're thinking,
And the motivations of their
They
heart.
are.
And they're not into PR, but doing what is right, what is right
for the betterment
of the people.
They will plan and distribute things to the point where they are satisfied in their soul that they have given rightly to those who deserve in the proportions that they deserve.
And they've
And
spoken
for
truthfully.
themselves, when they eat,
Yes.
when they take from it, they will not go past their needs being met, being satisfied, the soul.
And that could
But
just,
the stomach of the wicked now, because he's eating too.
yeah.
When you are in the hands of people whose appetite for things are, the appetite is
Ferocious.
insatiable.
Ferocious appetite, and they can't satisfy.
They cannot be satisfied.
They want more
The
and
stomach
more.
always wants
More. Yes.
As they are carrying the goods to you, they are eating from it.
Ah, Jesus.
It's what the salary, the big salary, it's the wanga good. It's what the reserving of the fat salaries for yourself while others are suffering. That's what it represents. That is the stomach of the wicked, which cannot ever be satisfied. So it's constantly taking from the public resource. When I saw it this morning, it took me right to our leadership, our style of leadership. And I'm not just talking about politicians.
Everybody.
Look at even the Gleaner's comment. We will not give the names of the banks at this time. Why?
Want more.
You, the Gleaner, as a premier purveyor of news, who should be giving the information to people that allow them to ask the right questions, take the right decisions, and be a part of the push for change.
They're not doing it.
You're associating yourself with the well-being and the security of entities who you think their reputation is going to be affected if they are associated with the thievery that took place in SSL.
But
And you're going to say, I'm withholding. Because you're thinking, if I were in their position, I wouldn't want my name to be called until I was in a position to have my PR just right to answer the issue. That's what this is about, you know.
See-
Give them time, because the people like us need time to give the perfect response. But there are some people who you must sandbag and blindside and humiliate them if you can. You push things out there to catch them off guard and to have a scoop.
but it happened. It happened. It happened.
So that's what you see happening when the wicked man cannot be satisfied, wants to have it his way all the time. So nothing is left for anybody else.
SSL.
Insatiable.
All right, we're back. Thank you very much for staying with us. May I just say, this is the Morning Connection. We are live at the Ligani Club. The Ligani Club is the premier sporting facility I think, in the Caribbean, if I may be so bold. We have 8 tennis courts, 6 squash courts, a full-service gymnasium, a swimming pool to dive into, walking trails, beautiful grounds, and hotel rooms which are available if you're in Jamaica on business or just for in the city for a night out at the theater. We do have theater. And we recommend the Ligani Club, especially because we're members, Lowell and myself. Percy is yet to join the Happy Camp. And they sponsor us. They allow us to use the grounds, of course, not without JD's Urban Pub, your place for fine Jamaican cuisine.
With Tina and Catherine.
With Tina and Catherine at the helm. Good morning to Tina and Catherine. And the other ladies who look after us when we're here on Thursdays. This morning, I'm going to have some salt mackerel with fried dumplings, fried plantains, and some food. And Percy is having ackee and saltfish and his beloved fried dumplings.
Yes,
my man love fried dumpling. It will be in heaven, you know.
Yeah.
Just for you. You will have fried dumplings in heaven. And you say you make a good...
From my wife, then.
Yeah, so heaven on earth. Your wife is just the best.
Yeah, so she tells me all the time.
It keeps you encouraged.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Somewhere in the house is a whole set of petrified fried dumplings. You know, like when you were kids and you don't want something to eat, you have a bag that you put it into.
No, and your parents think that you're finished. No, man, I'm finished.
All right. I'm not teasing your fried dumplings. Let me finish what the PM was saying. The PM is debunking the hysterical myths from people like church leaders who are pointing to the emerging digital economy and sounding warnings that may be necessary or may be misplaced. I'm not going to speak a judgment on it. But the Prime Minister has called it stupidness and has been seeking to answer some things that he has seen in social media. Well, I would tell him to lower his blood pressure and his temperature and ignore some of what he's seeing on social media. That way is a path of darkness.
Always come. Let's enter into the light.
Enter into the light. But he went on to say, I'm just gonna pick him up from where I left off. He pointed to some limitations to the cashless society or a digital economy emerging in any near future for Jamaica. Things you've heard from me, may I say it, that the infrastructure is not there yet. For you to have a functioning digital economy that is so pervasive that your nation benefits from it, your nation needs to have access to the internet at affordable cost, and the internet needs to be sufficiently robust to allow for these transactions to take place with efficiency and integrity. We are not there yet. So he points to that, although he doesn't speak as plainly as I do on the limitations to technology. He glosses over it with a phrase that he calls remote authentication. He says we cannot solve the issue of remote authentication with NIDs. Yes, because some people have tied in NIDs. You know, they say first they want a national ID that can identify down to the dog in your yard, and it's a digital ID.
Pointed in the paper yesterday.
Right.
They're going to the schools actually. They had a thing at George's where they market in person and they had this big ID or kind of.
Right.
So they're starting.
So and the truth of it is the paper ID you have in your hand is authenticated digitally. So you might as well have a device with your ID or have a chip in your arm with your ID, whichever way. So it's really just technology seeking to remove the intermediate physical IDs that you need. There will come a time when you can just walk through the airports, because everywhere you go, facial recognition, speech recognition, and if you have any kind of digital ID on your person, in your person, it will identify who you are. Nobody needs to stamp no document. The system will capture the identity of the individual and record what it must. The day will come. When we were in China, we walk into the train station
and they know
you present your passport and they know everything about you. that is a part of the progression towards being fully digital.
But they have one, you know.
Yeah, they have perhaps the largest because of the
Social
and
ID, and
if
they
they
pay
didn't
people
have that, how would you organize the business of 1 billion odd people? How could you hope to organize that? Half of your country would be in darkness half of the day.
Well,
Because
this it is.
you don't have enough hours in the day to track that. So you must use the power of computing technology. Anyway, back to our Prime Minister. He did explain that cashless is the way forward. And I think everybody know that. That is why the church would say we are moving into the new world order that prophecy speaks of. We're definitely doing that. There is no shame in admitting it.
That God I'd always have one up on us. Talk about it years ago.
Yeah.
I don't tell people all the time, come on. So the question is,
Can't keep pace with the designer, the chief architect of all things.
and therefore, the challenges that people are speaking about here is going to lead to the destruction of humanity. That is the latest thing that's coming out.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to them, you know
Good
why,
morning.
you know why they have a challenge and they're talking up because they don't believe in a God. But
Yeah.
God, they don't talk. The things are already
So that's already there.
So let us.
So don't
And
don't
our
be anxious
response-
because
Our response
it's
is not
happening.
going to fear, but not be anxious. But as you've been pointed out, Philippians 4:8, let's proceed in that way.
Yes. So he concedes that Jamaica is not at the point where we can have a fully digital economy. Are we at that point now where this can be widespread in the society? No, we're not there yet, but we're on our way and we must get there. We must get to this level of efficiency in our society where we can remove the pain points that make living in Jamaica sometimes such a distress. Well, the removal of pain points
No, the
interested
pain-
me greatly.
The pain points that we are speaking about, Proverbs.
Oh, the one I just read? The one we just read?
the pain points. The pain points that he's talking
Oh,
about.
the righteous whose stomach cannot be filled?
There's
Which
another
one?
one, man. This one, he's talking about pain points. So it says, when the God learn authority,
Oh, the people, when the godly are in authority.
let me tell you, this is New Living Translation. So are there pain points?
Oh, I noticed that the internet is not working with you.
Man, it'll work. It'll work.
All right, well, Percy hunts that down. Well, the Prime Minister must realize that how politicians are behaving and how certain leaders are behaving are severe pain points. So I love it that he says, we're going to get to the point where we can efficiently remove the pain points that make living in Jamaica sometimes such a distress. When we can vote digitally, there'll be no fraud.
Yeah,
You understand
it's a
that?
joke.
When I go in and I authenticate my identity with my
I can vote from anywhere with it.
and you can vote from anywhere.
You have to vote in a constituency
you. They
where
like-
the done them come and say, all right, you come vote away my at
And we, right.
So those are pain points.
We
that
will be
they-
able to remove some pain points with it. And that's why when these things are happening, we need to be wise in how we assess it, because there are some benefits that are going to work to the advantage of the people. And we cannot be afraid of change. We need to embrace change and skew it to our advantage. And just to
and that is why that hearts of leaders are important. Trust in the leaders are important. You know that if the trust deficit in our country was
resolve.
resolved, you wouldn't have to be coming.
No,
and
you wouldn't have to be calling anything stupidness.
No.
Yeah, because when he's pursuing a strategy, Jamaicans would see it, evaluate it, be able to talk to him openly. Prime Minister, can we reduce this, increase that? And there'd be respect at the table, and a thing would be adjusted for the mutual benefit of leaders and the populace, and we'd be on our way, no wasting of time trying to figure out if this man is tricking you into some situation of harm.
When the
That's
godly
what
and
the
power
trust-
authority,
yeah.
the people reject, but when the wicked and power, they go.
All right. We are ending right where we began.
Right.
We began this morning talking about the resonance that exists between hearts and the people and people who are of one accord. I'm sitting beside Percy. Percy and I are at one that this is the thing that we need to pursue. our energies combine because we are no more than 12 inches separated from each other. So my heartbeat can move in congruence with his.
Can resonate.
It resonates. When we can operate like that, we'll find that the dominant thinking and attitude will hold the day. If we are negative and bitter and corrosive, then that's what we'll spit out. And there are some talk shows that's how it's chaos.
And we need to and
Not so with us.
we need to shift. We need to shift the general narrative, general position of being negative to being positive in terms of bringing out the
Bring it
positive.
out there. Now
that-
now that you know that there is science behind people using their positive thoughts to build a consensus that can change things in the physical world, just embrace it, move
Embrace
into
it.
it boldly, step forward and do your thing. You will carry others with you, and you don't have to physically carry them. They will want to
Be with you.
be a part of it. We're advocating a shift at that level, at a cellular level,
Yeah.
so that we can move in tandem. Do you know, this is an aside and maybe too much information, so I won't use real names. I know persons who, by virtue of them living in the same house or having a blood connection, women, they come into the same environment, and after a period of time, their monthly cycle fall into the same pattern.
Wow.
I saw when my niece was pregnant, her mom began to experience that. She could tell what was happening with her daughter
You know,
physiologically. And we have known
Like with
of men.
twins.
We have known of men
Who are pregnant.
who, when
Who are
their
preg-
partner, their wife is pregnant,
they are
they get.
the symptoms. Them have
And
the
me not talking
morning
about
sickness.
big belly. They get.
No, them have the morning
have morning
sickness and all of those things. Because they are resonating. They're
Absolutely.
they're not in dissonance.
They're not in dissonance.
And so in our relationship, let us focus on resonating, of agreeing, of moving towards the positive, as Philippians 4:8 says, whatever thing are positive.
Noble. Think on
and
these things. Think on these things. Let me tell you, Percy, I am just getting the true meaning of that scripture.
Yes,
And it's only because I chose to investigate the science behind it.
the light. It all begins with the light.
And then
or
you had
photons.
started with let there be light.
The photons. You went there
Yeah.
with this gentleman and the photons and with the line up.
Mm-hmm.
We are light beings. Let us be like our master.
And we have the Dominion mandate give us authority
Okay.
over the realm, you know.
Yeah.
So
In
it's
every
gonna
area.
it's gonna imitate us.
Gonna mimic everything
It
we
mimic
do.
us. Listen, you know, as we go out, try and watch some of those cat and dog videos. Hey, the Chinese are doing amazing things with their pets. You can teach an animal to do anything, and it looks like you can teach any animal
To do anything.
that is sociable, can be socialized, to
Dominion.
do anything. It imitates you.
It go back to the beginning. He says, when God created us, he says, first let there be light. So we're light beings. And then he goes and says,
And
you're
he
gonna
creates some
dominate
other things, and then
everything.
he
And then
give
I
us-
say,
yeah.
put us in and say, okay, you run this.
You run it.
So let's go.
So it responds to us here. They talk about dog whisperers and horse whisperers and people who seem to have an uncanny ability to command the attention and obedience of another species. And I'm not talking about man commanding the obedience of women. That's an impossibility.
You have to go there and say you couldn't resist that one there. But
I
we are
couldn't
just saying,
resist it.
we're just
But-
saying that there is something that happens when we are united in our thinking, heart and mind towards a goal. In Psalms it says, that's where the Lord commands the blessing. He looks at it and he says, okay, now I can now unite with you, and we go ahead and get
May
it
I
done.
say something that is going to disturb your mind a little bit, even in the break? There are many times we speak about prayer as if prayer changes something. Prayer only changes you.
You
And
know
when it
that.
changes your thinking,
You line up with
the
God.
consequence is already set.
You line up with
So
what God
let's put it
intended.
this way. You don't have God somewhere out there saying, let me wait and see if they're going to pray and then I'll release. No.
He's released it, but you don't need to line up
It's
with
been
him.
released already.
You line up with
When
him,
you come into alignment
with God.
by your thoughts and your actions rising to that level, your access to the thing that is already there opens up.
That is why it's so important to walk in obedience.
Well, that will force that the alignment.
Yeah, no, but when you do
When
it,
you're
when you do
obedient.
it, when you do it willingly,
Yeah.
you move along quicker.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if doing something in rebellion is really obedience.
It's not.
It's not, it has to
And
be
the
willing.
consequences-
Obedience suggests willingness. But beyond it, because we have seen the blind obedience that didn't come from the right heart position, and we saw where it caused man to fall. So, oh man, we don't want to get distracted onto a new subject, but just understand that it's not just bare obedience where, oh, they say paint it red, we paint it red. You got to understand and love the fact that it's red
Right.
and fight to make it so, because you understand that it fits in with a larger plan, that once you do it with the right heart and spirit, more is unlocked and opened up to you.
Amen.
This is
the morning
the
connection.
morning connection,
Remember,
signing off.
as we go out next week, we're calling. Go pray line up at home.
People gonna tell you, that in order for them to stay on for 3 days, they need 3 weeks notice.
Ah,
So,
no,
so
if
they
you-
can
if you
arrange
compel.
things. But you're saying, be bold. Do what your conscience tells you. Look at your situation and say, I need to be radical
Yeah.
in what I do, because I now know that the decisions I take, the positions I take, can affect things in the real world. In my world, it affects everything.
In your family world, in your community world.
In your community, just
In the nation.
keep going. Thank you to those online. We have some winners for the JPS money. In fact, we have many candidates now for the JPS money. So I gotta just time check. I have to time check the answers and make sure that we can declare the right winner. We should be able to do that in the next, well, maybe I like to do it when we have our JPS guests, so they can participate in that part of it. So thank you for the online listeners who are putting in some responses. We really do appreciate the participation and the support. And to those on air, oh, we bless you for listening. You are especially important to us because our effectiveness in conveying a message to you is really tested by the change we see in the environment around us. So when you hear and you've got something, please share it and be sure to follow through with the good actions. Your heart will give the instructions. Your brain will give the instructions that your heart dictates. So if you get your heart in the right position, it will command your hands and your feet to follow in the right places. Producer, thank you very much. That mango which you have reaped, I hope we share it at breakfast. And to Lloydie back in studio, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Over and out.